what we need to think about right now, and this is the next sequence, is how do we are in fact taking the cohorts that I have, in this case students and staff, and categorize them correctly so I can then place them in those classrooms that are not now ready for occupancy. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at my employee standards and think about it creatively and say, can I in fact give individual students standards? So what we have done here is we actually created a bunch of standards by individual grade, and then assigned those standards to individuals. So we actually appropriated already attributes that Archibus provide out of the box, and then assign them in a way that will help us later on assign those individuals into classroom and really understand the cohorts in a much more robust way. So once we have done that, we move to this new view that we have, which is called Mark Employees for Return to Work. And now we have several more attributes per employee or per student that we can in fact work with. So first I'm going to look at that individual school. And notice that because I gave those employee standards, what I now have is a list of all those individual employees that are available for me standard by the correct standard. So now I'm looking at all the employees of the first grade, or in this case, all the students that belong to the first grade. Now, what Archibus also allows me to do is to add additional attributes. For instance, attribute that is called return to work information. Now, what I have done specifically here is thought about this creatively and say I can actually take that individual, free-form attribute and just type a name of a teacher. So in this case, you can see on this specific column that this first grade actually have several teachers that teach it, and every set of students belong to that individual teacher. Now, beyond that, we also looked at, and I'm going to actually filter by an individual teacher, in this case, Mr. Jordan, and then break his cohort into additional, subsections, in this case, section 1 and section 2, right? Or phase 1 or phase 2, or shift, whatever you want to call it. And so in shift 1, the individual students are going to come to class on Monday and Tuesday. And so what I've done is I actually took all those individual students, gave them a teacher by return to work information, and gave them a day in the office, or in this case, day in school, by Monday and Tuesday. And these guys, they are not always remote, they're actually at school. So they always remote will actually can stay now. So we can actually see quite a lot of information that I can apply in order to categorize my students in this case in a much more robust way, right? And of course, save that. In the same way, I'm going to go to, in this case, shift 2 or section 2 or whatever, subsection 2, however you want to call it. Select them all and give them the attributes of coming into school on Wednesday and Thursday, right? Now, beyond that, I can also look at the full cohorts of Mr. Jordan, and I can see that there's also quite a lot of students here that are actually going to be always remote. And the reason for it could be varied. Like the most obvious reason is that there's just not enough room in the classroom to have everybody there at once. So that is clear. But beyond that, there's also a lot of students that won't be able to join normal activities and go back to school, even if they wanted to, because of pre-existing conditions and whatnot, and because they are a higher factor of risk. And so they will stay home. And we do want to accommodate, of course, them as well. And so understanding who is in and who is not in the classroom on those times, and who is still around but working from home, or in this case, learning from home, is extremely important. Now, once I have this, the next phase is relatively simple, and that kind of follows Archibus's tradition, and that assigning those individuals to space. So I'm going to go back to the space console, And I'm going to find that John Lewis Elementary School that we have here, find that specific floor plan, and filter it in the right ways that will allow us or help us assigning those individuals into space. So you can see occupancy here. Several classrooms were already occupied. I'm just going to place the name label so I can understand a little bit better of where I'm in fact placing those individuals. So as I zoom in, you can see that classroom 303 here is available and belongs to Mr. Jordan as well by label, right? And it's vacant at this point. I'm going to click on the occupancy tab just to see the full list of all the individual students on the left-hand side, and then filter it accordingly. So we actually added quite a lot of attributes to that individual grid. You can find it under the additional field little gear icon that you have there. And you can see here those. So what I'm going to do is, of course, I'm going to filter by the standard, which is going to be first grade. And I'm going to filter by return to work, which is going to be Mr. Jordan, like we've done before. In this case, shift 1. Right, so everything that I did in the mark to work view just a few seconds ago, I'm actually applying to the space console right here. So I'm going to select them all at once, right? You can see they are stated to actually come to 2 schools. Select them all at once and just click on the classroom and apply commit to make sure that these individuals will be recorded to be in that specific room. Now, in the same way, after it's recorded, now notice that right now the room turned to blue, which is still available because that individual room actually have a capacity of 10, and I just put 8 individuals in it. So it tells me at this point that they're still available. But as soon as I'm going to put in the shift 2 students, right, which I'm going to do right now, the room is automatically going to be over capacity, and that's because Archibus is looking at how many individuals are in that room regardless of the day, which is something that we're working on actively just to make sure that we break it down by day as well. But in this case, we're not there just yet. Even though it shows exceed capacity, in reality, those individuals are not going to be there at the same day, so to speak. So the reports that you can get out of it are quite robust, right? First of all, you can actually look at who's coming in on Monday and Tuesday. Just with one click of a button, the grid has been filtered for you to tells you exactly who's going to be at school on Monday and Tuesday by that individual teacher, right? Just like we've done a second ago. And in the same way, and it shows you also what classroom they're going to be in. In the same way, you can actually change the return to work information to the second shift, even without the actual days in the office, because the second shift is already billed as those days built in. So you can see those individuals that are coming into this classroom. And of course, if you take that completely out and just tells me who's going to be in the classroom in general on Monday and Tuesday, it's going to show you all the individual students by all teachers and all the rooms that are going to be available. And so you understand right now that I have 46 students in those 5 classrooms that I occupied, but of course way more if I occupy the whole school. So I hope that was clear. So what we have done before I move on is looked at the school creatively, understand the actual capacity after social distance guidelines for every individual spaces that are already available for learning, but also other spaces that I identify as conducive to learning, even though they were not designed for full-time learning. And then apply those individual categories to those students, and of course assign them all and see all the reports of who's at school, who's working or learning from home at any given time.